Hi, my name is Phil Colcord. I'm president of Fraternal Order of Police Evergreen Lodge 1 here in Kitsap County, and this is our outreach program, whereby we have guests that are involved in different services that are available to those in need that live and reside within Kitsap County or their loved ones. Today we have Will Basler. Hi, Will, and why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do and what your job title is?
So I work with Kitsap County Pretrial Services. We are a relatively new department, about 2 years old, working with the Kitsap County Superior Court. We're kind of a weird marriage between Superior Court and Human Services. My job title itself is a Client Service Representative or Pretrial Services Client Representative.
Okay, thank you. And how long have you been involved with this?
So in the program's current iteration, I've been with it since the start. We're founded in, I say founded, but we opened the program up in August of 2022. And so I've been working with it since then.
And prior
to this, I've worked in reentry for about 8 years down in California, working with defendants, helping them find employment, working with people as they were released from jail on the ankle monitors. And so I've been in the reentry community corrections field for about 8 years.
So now you went from reentry to first entry, or basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarity there, though. Mm-hmm. The same issues that you deal with when someone gets released from prison or released from jail comes up when they get released from jail on pretrial. And so our goal of our program is really to help defendants as they go through their case access the services they need to be successful.
Okay. And so when you first interview them, what are you doing, or what are you telling them, or what are you trying to get from them?
So most times when I'm meeting a defendant, our first contact is what's called a bail study. And a bail study is essentially a pretrial screening we do with defendants for the Superior Court. It involves getting information around their employment, their name, previous criminal history, previous failure to appears. And I go out, I verify the employment and their employment and their living situation, and then provide that all together for the court in a report. We also at that time assess them to see if they're eligible for a public defender, and go through their rights with them and give them a chance to look over their rights and ask questions. We just recently launched a court day reminder program, and so we also enrolled defendants in that program at that time.
Okay. And this pretrial services is designed to increase the pretrial success, right?
Yeah, so pretrial success, when we talk about pretrial, we're talking about the time between when someone gets arrested and when their case concludes in court. So that would either be they're convicted and they begin their sentence, or the charges are dismissed and their case basically ends. And so the goal of pretrial services is to help defendants complete that successfully. Now, how we define that is a defendant has no new arrests. So while they're out on pretrial, they're not getting back into trouble, they're not getting arrested, and they attend all their court dates. So no FTA warrants or no missing court dates. And so what makes our services unique is that we're looking at this through the lens of a human service mindset. As I said earlier, we are a department in the Human Services Department. And so while we do work with the court to provide the bail study aspect and pretrial, we're really looking to blend the criminal justice system with the human service system to create a set of tools that defendants can use to help them be successful as they go through their case.
Okay. And so you stay with them from the time they're incarcerated or arrested until their case is done, right?
We do, as far as court day reminders, we do follow through with them on that. We're working to develop programming that has more of a case management aspect to it. A lot of the services we provide defendants are on a kind of, I call it an a la carte basis. You may have heard the term navigator, right? A court navigator or a pretrial navigator. And that's what we provide as navigation services. So when I sit down with a defendant and I talk with them, It may come up that, hey, I've been trying to get into substance abuse treatment, but I have no idea where to start. Or, hey, I'm a veteran and I could really use some support. Or, hey, the court has ordered me to make this mental health counseling appointment, but I don't know where to go. And so what I do with defendants is I sit down with them and I go, okay, so you want to get into substance abuse treatment. Here's what your options in our community are. Let me make a phone call. Let me call KCR, Agape, West Sound, the Real Team, and let's get you connected to them. And then they go forth and they'll do the actual case management and implementation of services. Our department is a fairly small team. It's a team of one, just me. But we have to be conscious of the resources we have. And so what we try and do is we try and be that connection between the jail, the court, and the service providers in the community. And so once we meet with them, our goal is to get them put with the people who can follow through with them and help them access those services.
What I see you're saying that I think is very important is you not only show them what is available to them, you start the process for them. You take them through it, hold their hand basically to get them started with it.
Yeah.
And that's good, because that's where it gets lost with a lot of people is they say yes, but then when they're left on their own, it falls by the wayside a lot of times. So that's good that you do the initial like that. I think that's very, very good to have.
I like to call it the knot, right? When someone's in crisis, and normally when someone gets arrested, they are in some form of crisis. Nobody's happy to go to jail. Nobody's happy to be involved in court. Court's scary, right? And so a lot of times people get themselves wrapped up where they have all these needs and all these things they have to do, but they're not sure where to start. And so our goal in pretrial services is kind of help them start pulling on the threads so that they can start seeing how to untangle the knot.
Well, in human nature, they're starting a pity party, and you're bringing them above that or out of that by giving them a resource, and that's always good to have. That's commendable. Okay, how do you help the defendants connect with social services?
So as I said earlier, we do kind of an a la carte services. I call it navigation. And the idea is that we're helping defendants navigate the networks of social services. Getting access to social services can be hard. It's about knowing where to go and knowing the people to talk to, but also knowing how to fill things out. If you've ever tried to apply for like an ACP phone or Obama phone or food stamps or Medicaid, it's hard and it can be difficult and can be overwhelming. And so the goal really with our program is to help make those first steps to either get them to where they need to be and get them the resources they need to go, or to connect them to people who can. We have a very good relationship with the Kitsap Recovery Center, a very good relationship with the Veterans Advisory Board. And so the idea is that, there are resources in this community, but a lot of times they're scattered out. It can be hard to find them. Even myself, I'll occasionally just be out meeting with people in the community and I'll learn about something I didn't even know about, right? And so the idea is that a defendant, when they're going through their court case, they don't necessarily have the capacity to handle all that other stuff or know about all that other stuff. And so we're really trying to work with them to get them connected to those services. The other things we're doing is we're doing things to help them get to and from court. We do provide bus tokens. So normally if a defendant needs them to get to and from court, I'll give them enough to go to court, get back to court, home, and back to court the next time, as well as enough to attend any mandated appointments that they might have. For example, the court says, hey, we want you to go meet with, a mental health professional for an assessment, or we want you to talk to a substance abuse get a SUD assessment or substance abuse disorder assessment. We try and make sure that not only are we helping them get connected to that, but we're also helping them get to and from there so that they have the resources they need to be successful.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, the bail study. After the bail study's done, if the court denies them bail, do you still work with the person for pre-trial stuff?
So if a defendant is denied bail, there's a few things that we can do for them. If their attorney or they reach out to us asking for help figuring out services, we can meet them in the jail and sit down and talk about that and talk about what their needs are. We also do have a very close relationship with the Kitsap County Jail's reentry team. And so a lot of times we will tag team with them so that we're not kind of overlapping services.
So either way the bail goes, you're there for them.
Exactly.
And that's good.
We can also, a lot of times what we'll do is if there's question, a lot of times it's not necessarily that bail's been denied, it's more that their bail's set at a place where they can't afford to pay it. And so we also do help with re-updating bail studies as situations change. A lot of times this is like a defendant, when I meet with them first in jail, maybe they're not sure about their living situation, or they don't have contact information for their landlord or the person they're living with. Or, they're homeless or unhoused and they don't have a place to stay, but as they're in custody longer, they're able to get in touch with their family and they have a place to stay. And so we'll oftentimes go back in those cases at the request of their attorney and re-update those bail studies with the new information to see if we can get a bail reduction or a different change in their situation.
Sounds like you should have a staff working for you, because sounds like an awful volume of work you have there.
It's a lot, but we make do with what we have. I would love to have another staff person on site, but we're really in the process of building and growing our program.
Well, you're young, 2 years, you said, into it. So, yeah.
It takes some time.
Takes time, yep. How do you handle court date reminders? How does that work?
This is the exciting thing for us. We just launched this at the beginning of the month. We have an automated system for court date reminders, so defendants have the options to receive a text message, an email, or a phone call through an automated system. It's similar to how, if you ever had your dentist give you a call or a text message saying your appointment's at this date and time. It's the same idea. And so 3 days beforehand, they'll get a text message saying, you have court on this date at this time. One day they'll get the same before court, they'll get the same text message saying the same thing, and then the day of they'll get a text message saying they've got court. And the idea is that we want to put multiple reminders out there so that they have time, if they forgot about it or they didn't realize they have a court date, they have time to prepare transportation, adjust their schedule for work, get in touch with their attorney, and stuff like that. On top of that, if a defendant does have an issue where they're having issue getting transportation to and from court, or they have a child care need, it gives them time to reach out to us so we can start troubleshooting those issues with the defendant and figuring out how we can get them to and from court.
That's good.
And so with all defendants who are arraigned in Superior Court, as part of our bail study, and I call it bail studies, like bail study, which is the report, and then bail study, which is the process of getting all that initial paperwork filled out. We generally have them fill out the enrollment for that there. And so, so far, no one's refused to hop onto the program, and most defendants seem really happy to be able to get that service.
That's good. That's real good. Okay, I think you answered this one already, though, but what new program are you working to develop in the court? That's the one you just were talking about, right?
Well, that's one of the ones. As I said, we just launched it, and we're really excited about it. But we're not done.
Right.
We are looking to grow the program in two major ways. The first is the adoption of a pretrial risk assessment. There was kind of two options on that we're looking at. The public safety assessment from Arnold Ventures is kind of the gold standard for pretrial risk assessments. It's an actuarial tool that looks at a defendant's previous criminal history and some other factors like age, and uses that to calculate a risk level for a defendant. And so it's like what it looks at is how likely a defendant's going to show up to court and how likely they're going to reoffend. And if they reoffend, how likely is that reoffense going to be violent? And so it gives you 3 different scores that you can use to determine what conditions need to be set up around a defendant as they release into the community. The other one is the Ohio risk assessment. This one focuses a little less on criminal history and more on social structures in the person's life. It's a University of Cincinnati tool. I've used their other stuff before, and they're a great. They provide some really great reentry tools, and so we're looking at right now. We're in the process of looking at it with the court, the prosecutors, and the public defender's office to see what tool thinks is the best fit for our county, and what tool we would want to use as a court. And so that's what we're really looking at right now. The other thing we're working on developing is what we call a defendant check-in program. And this would go more to a long-term case management relationship with defendants. And so the idea is that a defendant who maybe have a higher bail may have their bail reduced or maybe PR'd instead of getting bail. But in exchange for that, they're checking in with pretrial services a certain number of times a month or a week. And so these check-ins would consist of getting updated contact info, talking about how things are going, making sure that they're still doing good and they have all the resources they need to be successful. We did a test case of this back in May, and it was fairly successful. The defendant, while there were a few hiccups along the way, the defendant did complete his case successfully, and we were able to work with him to get make sure that he had all the support he needed to be successful. And so, as I said, we're focused on a human services model to pretrial services. When you look at most pretrial services nationwide, it is very much like probation light, And there are certain things you can't do in pretrial services that you can do on probation because we are working with people who are presumed to be innocent. But it's very much, come in here, fill out your form, do your drug test, come back next month, right? Mm-hmm. And so our goal is to build a program that is focused around the defendant's needs and is encouraging them to be successful. And when we look at pretrial services programs around the nation, you see a lot of success when you take the time to create stability in a defendant's life.
I think that's really great. I got a couple of questions on that to ask you, though. In the bail study, and then you connect them with social services, if you believe you have chemical dependency problem or you have mental health issues, what do you do with the defendant in those cases? Do you get a hold of those services, or?
So if a defendant has mental health or chemical dependency issues, if we see a mental health issue that's going to affect their ability to participate in court or a competency issue, a lot of times I'll give the public defender a heads up or the attorney a heads up, like, hey, you should have this person assessed for competency or take a look at it. We do have a really great relationship with our public defender's office. Mm-hmm. And so, I oftentimes will, send if I see the attorneys handling the case in the hallway or if I'm sending out emails, give them the heads up, like, hey, this person may need this help. With competency, it is something that has to be requested through the attorney. And so a lot of times when we're working with the defendant to access services, we'll also be keeping their attorney in the loop so that the attorney is aware that, hey, this person's reaching out to this program for this reason. And we find that's really important to have that relationship there because it gives the attorney stuff to bring up in court to show that the defendant is trying to make changes in their life. But B, also the attorney needs to be aware of that because they're the one handling the case. And they need to be aware what's going on in that defendant's life. With chemical dependency, oftentimes we will work with people if they come to us needing help. All of our services are voluntary as far as navigational services. Right. And so it does require that they make the effort to come into our office to seek them. I can't go and grab somebody and say, I'm going to get you in the drug treatment right now because I told you so. That's just, when you look at how good practice works, it just doesn't work. Nobody's going to do something they're forced to do.
I just wanted to make sure that those were covered in bail study as far as if you see that problem, you have a resource you can go to. And it sounds like you do, so that's good. Yeah. Okay, we're starting to run out of time, so anything you want to get out to the public in regards to this?
I think I'll go to kind of just talking about why this is important. This work is important. The basic right, your basic right as an American citizen is to be presumed innocent until any accusations proved by beyond a reasonable doubt or you take a plea of guilty, right? And that presumption of innocence means nothing if you're incarcerated, right? In U.S. versus Salerno, I mispronounced that horribly, but we can keep it in. U.S. versus Salerno, the Supreme Court came out and said the presumption of innocence means nothing without pretrial release. And so our goal is to, and while we understand that defendants can't be treated the same as someone who hasn't been arrested for the public safety need and to make sure that they're showing up to court, we do want to allow defendants the most freedom that they can have while they're going through this case. Because at the end of the day, these are people who have not been convicted of their crime. And so our goal is really to help defendants be successful in that pretrial phase, help them get the services and stability they need to be successful, and to help them find a better way, right? You know, as I was joking around with you earlier, I don't like redoing my work, right? I want, when I work with somebody, I want them to be the best part of who they can be. And our goal in pretrial services is really to put the supports around them that they need to be successful and hopefully leave the justice system behind. And hopefully next time I see them, you know, it's a positive, no longer in custody, I'm working, I've got my family together, and I'm happy. And that's really our goal, is to help people get from the jail cell to a positive member of society.
You're an advocate to them, whether they know it or not, and a good resource. And it's good that you have that, and I like your attitude on that. That's very good. I think we're pretty much done with what I needed to know. If you get, if you email me anyone that you think that the other organizations that you'd like to be interviewed, that would be good, that have their interview, email me and I'll get a hold of them. Okay?
Definitely will.
Anyway, I thank you for your time and for the efforts that you're putting in. I think it's a good program, and I can see why the prosecutor recommended you to be here. So I thank you, and Will here is available for, you have family members that have been arrested or have problems. Will's there to help them. And, you know, in life, everyone is difficult, and sometimes people make mistakes, and the goal is to prevent them from doing more mistakes. Anyway, thank you for enjoying or coming to the show, and we'll be back again with another show down the road. Take care, and God bless.